Hello, and a very warm welcome to Cultural Communication Confidence with me, Victoria Reynoldson. And today we're going to talk about a topic that I feel is really important. How do we avoid wasting time in meetings and get back to clarity so we can have better meetings? Now, this topic came up recently in a talk that I did for a group, an organization, where there are a number of different leaders coming together. And we were talking about effective team meetings, effective communication for those meetings. And as part of sharing for this talk, I found some really shocking statistics when it comes to meetings. And this research, which came from Project.co and Pumble, gave these stats, which I wanted to share with you because they really illustrate the point about how time is being wasted today. So 63% say they've wasted time due to communication issues. 86% say poor communication is the leading cause of workplace failure. But the good news is that 64% believe that effective communication increases team productivity. So we can see this really strong correlation between effective, strong communication and making sure that meeting time is effective, making sure that time is not being wasted. And I believe that clarity is a really key part of this. So, in today's episode, we're going to talk about how to move from waste time, meetings that drift, through to absolute clarity in those meetings. And to do that, I'm going to share with you a specific framework that I have developed, which I use with my clients every day to help them think about how they lead team meetings more effectively. And that particular framework is called the 5 Ps. So I'm going to go through this step by step to help you understand it and apply it. Now, before we do, I'm just going to mention that clarity, of course, is one area among many for developing your global leadership communication skills. And I have created a resource that covers a number of areas, a mini training series that I have developed to accompany this podcast. And I'm offering it to you completely for free because I want you to be able to go deeper on these topics and have some further insights. So if you would like to access that, all you have to do is head over to www.culturecuppa.com/leader and you can access those resources today in your own time and when it suits you. So coming back to the topic of clarity then, I've mentioned that I will be sharing with you the 5 Ps of clarity to help you plan for your meetings to make the most of it. Now, whether you have been nodding along so far and saying, yep, you often are sitting in meetings that are wasting time, or maybe you have occasional meetings that are not working so well, the idea of planning for every meeting may feel challenging. Maybe you're like many of the people that I work with, which is that you're time poor, you don't have simply a moment to really think about for every meeting what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. But what I would say is this: for those meetings that matter, for the critical meetings, this is what can make the difference between getting to outcomes and results that move forward and create momentum, or just being a talking shop, a place where people come together, air their views, but nothing really moves forwards and projects drag and get delayed. This is why it really matters. And the 5 Ps framework that I have developed is specifically developed for people like you who are time poor, who need just a few minutes to reflect on what it is they need to do in this meeting to make it most effective. So let's get into it. Now, as I'm talking through this, I want you to think about a specific meeting that you've got coming up, perhaps an important meeting, where you could benefit from having this clarity before you go into the meeting. Okay, so you can apply it, have that in mind, and as I'm sharing the 5 P's, you can apply it straight away. Okay, so let's start with that first P. The first P is purpose. Purpose for me splits into 2 areas: the goal of the meeting and the intention. Now, you're probably familiar with the goal, and if you are like, again, many people that I work with, they would have an objective for the meeting, something that they are aiming for. That could be the business objective or goal, it could be to do with the team, or even at the project level, there would be an objective of something that you're aiming for. But the thing that I often don't see is intention. Intention is really interesting, which is about what is it you want to create in the relationship dynamic in that room. Obviously, meetings are not just about sharing information or updates. If you were going to do that, you would probably think about other communication tools like emails or Messenger. But really, meetings should be coming together to create something more than just the sum parts of information. And part of that is recognizing meetings have people inside them. It's about humans talking to each other. So for me, intention is really thinking about what kind of relationship dynamic do you want to bring? What is it you're trying to do with the relationships that you're building? Or even what kind of impression do you want to leave among the other people in the room? So just take a moment to think about this for your specific meeting situation. So this is the first P, purpose. The second P, probably not surprising, is people. I've already mentioned the word. People, of course, is who is attending, and there are a couple of angles on this. The first angle is thinking about what do people need to know, feel, and do. Now, I recognize that many people will have some thoughts around what people need to know. They come with information, updates, data, graphs, presentations that they're going to share in the meeting. They also might be okay on the third one, which is do. So they might have a thought around what the next step is or the action that needs to happen, what people need to go away and take forward. But the feel part of this is the interesting part. What is the feeling you want people to have at the end of the meeting? The feeling about this project, about you? What is the feeling you want to give them? Is it energized and feeling really positive and can do? Or do you want to feel that make them help them feel empowered? Maybe that's a feeling you want to leave them with. Do you want to give them that feeling of the future, particularly if this is a difficult conversation? So just really identify now for this meeting you have in mind, what is the feeling that you want to bring? The other part of people is thinking about what you need to adapt for with the people in the room, particularly if you're leading this meeting. Now, this might bring in things like cultural dynamics. So, using your cultural intelligence to think about the personalities in the room. How are they likely to want to contribute to the meeting? What might get in the way of them being fully part of the conversation? So, for example, you might have some people who are very extrovert, very happy to unmute and speak up and share their point of view. But you may have others who are not very comfortable speaking up in front of others, particularly if there are more senior managers in the room. So you might have to think about different contribution methods to allow that everybody has that chance to express their point of view, to have their voice heard. So that is one element. But also think about things like direct and indirect communication styles, or how people prefer to express their disagreement. You might need to consider the dynamics of this and how you allow people to really contribute and be heard. This really makes for an inclusive meeting. And if you want to learn more about cultural intelligence, just reach out to me on LinkedIn and I can tell you more about that. So this is the next P, people. Next, we move into the third P, which is plan. Now, obviously, this is all about planning, but very specifically, I want you to think about designing the conversation, designing the meeting. Now, if this is a meeting that's happening in person, you can literally design the environment for it. So, if you are a large group, what kind of room would best suit the kinds of conversation you need to have? If it's a smaller group, does it even need to be in a meeting room? I know myself that I've had a lot of success recently in effective meetings and conversations when I've been walking and talking with clients side by side, helping them to either explore new career options or look at and work out challenges that they're facing right now. So, if you're a smaller group or even just two of you, do you have to sit in a meeting room? Could you actually take it outside, walk and talk as a different way to design the conversation? And coming back to that feeling, create a different feeling through your communication. Even if you're in a virtual environment where you've got somebody else or a small group of people joining a virtual call, there's nothing that says you have to do that sitting down at a desk. You could all be walking and talking, audio only, admittedly, but that might bring a different dynamic to the conversation. So think about what's going to work best for the meeting you have in mind. The other part of plan for me is really getting absolutely crystal clear about what now, so what, sorry, that's the second stage. So what, and then now what, which is based on a model from Terry Borum, I think it is. Yes, I think that was the name of the person I was trying to remember. So, this is a reflection tool, which actually originally was used in other settings, but I think is a really effective communication tool as well. So it starts with what. Now, this might be obvious to you, what is it you want to share? What do you want to say? And this could be based on the outline of the agenda. But the other two questions I think are very powerful. So what? So what means why should the other people in that meeting room care? Why should they care about this? What's the implication for them? Really help those people understand why these points matter. And then now what? This is about being very clear what needs to happen next. How do you align to next steps? So what, now what? The fourth P is prioritize. I think many meetings are not clear or feel like they end up wasting time because there are too many points being brought to the table. Or if there are just a few points, there are tangents and people go off on conversations that drift. So at the beginning of your meeting, make it very clear and then agree with the team what are the top 1 to 3 points that you must absolutely cover in that meeting. This is a great way as well that if the conversation does start to move off those, you can sense check. Are we okay to move away from our agreed prioritized points? Or do we need to bring back this conversation and capture that topic separately, have a separate conversation or meeting about it? And the very last one, the fifth P, is point. This final activity is critical. And although many of you will be familiar with arranging or thinking about next steps and what happens after the meeting, how often does a meeting rush at the end? And in the last minute, there is barely enough time to really focus on this. And yet, this is probably the most important part. A meeting is only a talking shop unless you really get to the action part. So for me, practically, this is really important to include enough time in the agenda for, or having the boldness and confidence to stop the conversation and to check in about next steps before everybody has to disappear off the call or out of the meeting. So use that point section, the point area for the next steps, to lift out of the micro detail back up to macro. Help people to think about the future and to really identify what needs to happen next, by whom, and by when. And also to identify what are the not only short term actions, but also what's coming up, the next milestones, what resources need to be gathered to support this. So there you have it, the 5 Ps. You have purpose, you have people, you have plan, you have prioritize, and you have point. This framework, my framework, I hope you find incredibly helpful. And we've talked through this fairly slowly here today as I've explained each area. But hopefully you've held in mind that meeting you have coming up and you can see how you can apply this. This is something that, as you use it over time, gets quicker, and you can use it really in a few minutes to get ready for the important meeting. Now, this clarity will really help you to keep the communication sharp, to make sure that there is clarity rather than wasted time in your meetings. And I think clarity is a really key part of your global leadership communication skills. So, as I mentioned at the start, if you want to go deeper on these skills and you're really interested in how to grow yourself in these areas like clarity, then I'm offering a free resource that goes with the podcast. And I invite you to dive into this mini training series that you can do in your own time and access when you want. Just to access that, head over to www.culturecuppa.com/leader. So, wrapping up this episode, the questions I've really got for you are: how are your meetings clear today? How is your communication today, and could it be improved in clarity? And which of these 5 Ps is going to be the most important one for you? I'd love to know. And I always love to hear your feedback and how you're applying what you're learning in this podcast. So feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can find me under my personal profile, Victoria Reynoldson. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining me here today. Thank you for listening. And I very much look forward to seeing you next time on the show.